count or countess is a title in European countries for a noble of varying status, but historically deemed to convey an approximate rank intermediate between the highest and lowest titles of nobility. The word count came into English from the French comte, itself from Latin comes, in its accusative comitem, meaning companion, and later, companion of the emperor, delegate of the emperor. The adjective form of the word is comital. The British and Irish equivalent is an earl. Alternative names for the count rank in the nobility structure are used in other countries, such as Graf in Germany and Haku-Shaku during the Japanese imperial era. Definition: in the late Roman Empire, the Latin title comes, meaning companion, denoted the high rank of various courtiers and provincial officials, either military or administrative. Before Anthemius became emperor in the West in 467, he was military comes charged with strengthening defences on the Danube frontier. In the Western Roman Empire, count came to indicate generically a military commander, but was not a specific rank. In the Eastern Roman Empire, from about the 7th century, count was a specific rank indicating the commander of 2 centuries. Military counts in the late Empire and the Germanic successor kingdoms were often appointed by a dux and later by a king. From the start the count was not in charge of a roving war band, but settled in a locality known as a countship. His main rival for power was the bishop, whose diocese was often coterminous with the countship. In many Germanic and Frankish kingdoms in the early Middle Ages, a count might also be a count palatine, whose authority derived directly from the royal household, the palace, in its original sense of the seat of power and administration. This other kind of count had vague antecedents in late antiquity too. The father of Cassiodorus held positions of trust with Theodoric, as comes rerum privatarum, in charge of the imperial lands, then as comes sacrarum largitionum, concerned with the finances of the realm. The position of comes was originally not hereditary. By virtue of their large estates, many counts could pass the title to their heirs, but not always. For instance, in Piast Poland, the position of comes was not hereditary, resembling the early Merovingian institution. The title had disappeared by the era of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and the office replaced with other institutions. Only after the partitions of Poland did the title of count resurface in the German-derived title Rabia. The title of count was also often conferred by the monarch as an honorific title for special services rendered, without an attaching feudal estate. It was merely a title, with or without a domain name attached to it. In the United Kingdom, the equivalent earl can also be used as a courtesy title for the eldest son of a duke. In Italy, by contrast, all the sons of certain counts are counts. In Sweden there is a distinction between counts, introduced before and after 1809. All children in comital families introduced before 1809 are called count, countess. In families introduced after 1809 only the head of the family is called count. The rest had a status similar to barons and were called by the equivalent of Mr., Ms., Mrs., before the use of titles was abolished. Comital titles in different European languages. The following lists are originally based on a glossary on heraldica.org by Alexander Krishnag. The male form is followed by the female, and when available, by the territorial circumscription. Etymological derivations from the Latin comes etymological parallels of the German Graf compound and related titles. Apart from all these, a few unusual titles have been of comital rank, not necessarily to remain there. Dauphin was a multiple comital title in southern France, used by the Dauphins of Vienne and Auvergne, before 1349 when it became the title of the heir to the French throne. The Dauphin was the lord of the province still known as the Regent Dauphiné. Conduc, Count Duke, is a rare title used in Spain, notably by Gaspar de Guzman, Count Duke of Olivares, who had inherited the title of Count of Olivares. but being created Duke of Sanlúcar by King Philip IV of Spain, begged permission to preserve his inherited title in combination with the new honor. According to a practice almost unique in Spanish history, logically, the incumbent ranks as duke just as he would when simply concatenating both titles. Conde Barão, Count Baron, is a rare title used in Portugal, notably by D. Luís Lobo da Silveira, 7th Baron of Alvito, who received the title of Count of Oriola in 1653 from King John IV of Portugal. His palace in Lisbon still exists, located in a square named after him. Archcount is a very rare title, etymologically analogous to Archduke, apparently never recognized officially, used by author. The Count of Flanders, the informal, rather descriptive use on account of the countship's de facto importance is rather analogous to the unofficial epithet Grand Duc de l'Occident for the even wealthier Duke of Burgundy, at least one Count of Burgundy. In German kingdoms, the title Graf was combined with the word for the jurisdiction or domain the nobleman was holding as a fiefdom, or as a conferred or inherited jurisdiction, such as Markgraf, Landgraf, Freigraf, Burggraf, where Burg signifies castle. See also Viscount, Pfalzgraf, Raugraf, where Wald signifies a large forest. The German Graf and Dutch Graf stems from the Byzantine Greek graphius, meaning he who calls a meeting, i.e., the court, together. The Ottoman military title of Serdar was used in Montenegro and Serbia as a lesser noble title with the equivalent rank of a count. These titles are not to be confused with various minor administrative titles containing the word Graf in various offices which are not linked to nobility of feudality, such as the Dutch titles Pluimgraf and Dijkgraaf. Lists of countships. Territory of today's France. West Franceship proper since Louis VII. The highest precedence amongst the vassals of the French crown was enjoyed by those whose benefice or temporal fief was a pairie, i.e., carried the exclusive rank of pair within the first and second estates. The first three of the original 12 ancienne pairies were ducal, the next three comital comté pairies. Bishop Counts of Beauvais, Bishop Counts of Chalons, Bishop Counts of Noyon, Count of Toulouse, until united to the crown in 1271 by marriage. Count of Flanders, which is in the Low Countries and was confiscated in 1299, though returned in 1303. Count of Champagne, until united to the crown. Later other countships have been raised to this French peerage, but mostly as appanages or for foreigners. After the 16th century all new peerages were always duchies, and the medieval countship peerages had died out, or were held by royal princes. Other French countships of note included those of Count of Angoulême, later dukes, Count of Anjou, later dukes, Count of Auvergne, Count of Bar, later dukes, Count of Blois, Count of Boulogne, Count of Foy, Count of Montpensier, Count of Poitiers, Count of Saint-Germain. Parts of today's France long within other kingdoms of the Holy Roman Empire. Freigraf of Burgundy, the Dauphiné, the Holy Roman Empire. See also above for parts of present France. In Germany a Graf ruled over a territory known as a Grafschaft. See also various comital and related titles, especially those actually reigning over a principality. G. Graf, Landgraf, Reichsgraf. Compare Markgraf, Pfalzgraf. In Italy the title of Conte is very prolific on the peninsula. In the 11th century, Conti, like the Count of Savoy or the Norman Count of Apulia, were virtually sovereign lords of broad territories. Even apparently lower-sounding titles, like Viscount, could describe powerful dynasts, such as the Visconti family who ruled the major cities such as Milan. The essential title of a feudatory, introduced by the Normans, was seigneur, modelled on the French seigneur, used with the name of the fief. By the 14th century, Conte and the imperial title baron were virtually synonymous. Some titles of count, according to the particulars of the patent, might be inherited by the eldest son of a count. Younger brothers might be distinguished as XDEI Conti DIY. However, if there is no male to inherit the title and the count has a daughter, in some regions she could inherit the title. The papacy and the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies might appoint counts palatine with no particular territorial fief. Until 1812 in some regions, the purchaser of land, designated feudal, was ennobled by the noble seat that he held and became a conte. This practice ceased with the formal abolition of feudalism in the various principalities of early 19th century Italy, last of all in the Papal States. Many Italian counts left their mark on Italian history as individuals, yet only a few contadi were politically significant principalities, notably Norman Count of Apulia, Count of Savoy, later Duke, Count of Asti, Count of Montferrat, Count of Montefeltro, Count of Tusculum. Holy See in Austria. The principalities tended to start out as margraviatum, or duchy, and became nominal archduchies within the Habsburg dynasty. Noteworthy are Count of Tyrol, Count of Scilly, Count of Schaumburg. In Poland numerous small ones, particularly Counts of Galicia and Poland. In the Low Countries apart from various small ones, significant were, in present Belgium, Count of Flanders, but only the small part east of the river Schelde remained within the empire. The far larger west, an original French Comté Paris, became part of the French realm. Count of Hainaut, Count of Namur, later a margraviate Count of Leuven, soon became the Duke of Brabant. Count of Mechelen. Though the Heerlijkheid Mechelen was given the title of Graafschap in 1490, the city was rarely referred to as a county, and the title of count has not been in practical use by or for any one of the series of persons that became rightfully entitled to it. The flag and weapon of the municipality still has the corresponding heraldic crowned single-headed eagle of sabre, on gold. In the present Netherlands, Count of Holland, Count of Zeeland, Count of Zutphen. In Switzerland, Count of Neuenburg, Count of Toggenburg, Count of Kyburg, Count de Salis-Solio, Count de Salis-Seawise, Count of Panzuti. In other continental European countries in Iberia, as opposed to the plethora of hollow gentry counts, only a few countships ever were important. In medieval Iberia, most territory was firmly within the Reconquista kingdoms before counts could become important. However, during the 19th century, the title, having lost its high rank, proliferated. Portugal itself started as a countship in 868, but became a kingdom in 1139. Throughout the history of Portugal, especially during the constitutional monarchy, many other countships were created. In Spain, no countships of wider importance exist, except in the former Spanish March. County of Barcelona, the initial core of the Principality of Catalonia, later one of the states of the Crown of Aragon, which became one of the two main components of the Spanish crown. Count of Aragon, Count of Castile, Count of Galicia, Count of Lara, Count Cassius, progenitor of the Banu Qasi, County of Urgell, later integrated into the Principality of Catalonia. The other Catalan counties were much smaller and were absorbed early into the County of Barcelona, County of Girona, County of Besalú, County of Osona, which included the nominal County of Manresa, County of Berga and County of Conflent and County of Cerdaña. From 1162 these counties, together with that of Barcelona, were merged into the Principality of Catalonia, a sovereign state that absorbed some other counties. County of Roussillon, County of Palas Jussa, County of Empúries, County of Urgell and County of Palas Sobirà, giving the principality its definitive shape. Bulgaria. In the First Bulgarian Empire, a comet was a hereditary provincial ruler under the Tsar, documented since the reign of Presian. The Kumtopuli dynasty was named after its founder, the Comet of Sarades. Montenegro and Serbia. The title of Count was used in the Principality of Montenegro and the Principality of Serbia as a lesser noble title below that of Vojvoda. The royal houses of both Montenegro and Serbia still grant this title. Crusader states Count of Edessa, Count of Tripoli. Equivalents. Like other major Western noble titles, Count is sometimes used to render certain titles in non-Western languages with their own traditions, even though they are as a rule historically unrelated and thus hard to compare, but which are considered equivalent in rank. This is the case with the Chinese Bo, hereditary title of nobility ranking below Hu and above Z. The Japanese equivalent Hakushaku, adapted during the Meiji Restoration. The Korean equivalent Bakyak or Poguk. In Vietnam, it is rendered Ba, one of the lower titles reserved for male members of the imperial clan, above T, Nam and Vinh Phong, but lower than, in ascending order, Hu, Kong, Quan Kong and Quc Kong, all under Vuong. The Indian Sardar, adopted by the Maratha Empire. Additionally, Jagirdar and Deshmukh are close equivalents. The Arabic equivalent Sheikh,